All right.
I'd like to call to order the September 1st, 2021 regular meeting of the Board of Education. Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Dr. Hall?
Here.
Ms. Moffitt? Here. Ms. Schofield?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
The agenda, motion to approve the agenda. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the agenda of the September 1st, 2021 regular Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education in adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, treasurer, or superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? So anyway, it's district-wide Spirit Week and today's Wild West theme. So our horses are parked outside. We thank you for being here and joining us tonight. Roll call.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Moffitt?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Opening ceremony. Welcome our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity. Informational items. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It's not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the top individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, she or he must notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, the individual will preface comments by an announcement of his or her name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. All statements should be directed to the board president. No person may address or question board members individually. In addition, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about school personnel, nor against any person connected with the school system. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on the screen. And for your convenience, hard copies of the board agenda may be found on the librarian's desk next to the sign-in book. The next regularly scheduled meetings of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education are on September 15th, October 6th, and October 20th at 5:30 p.m. in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library, 2300 4th Street, Cuyahoga Falls. There is a special board meeting on September 8th at 5 o'clock in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library, 2300 4th Street, right here in Cuyahoga Falls. And now for our Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Anthony Gomez.
Would you please stand as you're able and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Now for item D, presentations, grant recipients, Dr. Nichols.
Thank you, President Schofield, members of the board. I'm going to ask Ms. McClure, Director of Human Resources. It seems appropriate to join me at the podium and to help me. First of all, there's a long list here, and I know some could not make it, but I want you to all know how proud of you I am for taking the extra time and effort and energy to submit these grants to the various entities, mostly through GAR or through our foundation, et cetera. The things that you're doing in the classroom are special and provide additional opportunities for our kids. And just plain and simple, I just want you to know how proud of you I am. So, Ms. McClure? Would these help?
Those would help, and you do those.
Okay.
All right. So we have various grants, so if you bear with me, when I read the recipient's name, I'm also going to read where they're from. the grant, the title of their grant, and who awarded that grant to them. First, we have Elise Alexander from Richardson Elementary School. Her grant was One Tech Savvy Teacher, and it was awarded by various grants that were received by the Richardson school staff. Elise? Next is Bill Bailey, who is our district food services supervisor.
Now, what I'd like is kind of somehow arranging ourselves and take a group photo at the end.
Come on
We
back.
could do-
Bill wrote a grant entitled the Black Tiger Cafe Channel, and he was awarded by the Foundation and Alumni Association Professional Teacher Mini Grant. I don't believe Bill was able to be with us. Next is Lauren Bittner, who teaches art at both Preston and Silver Lake Elementary. Her grant was titled Flex Curriculum, designed by the Art of Education University, and was awarded also by the Foundation and Alumni Association of Cuyahoga Falls. Tara Bolchowitz from Richardson Elementary, Pets for the Classroom. And again, various grants were received at Richardson Elementary. Rebecca Chafee from Preston Elementary School, Teaching with Technology, was a Donors Choose grant. I don't see Rebecca. Nope. Vicki Davis from Cuyahoga Falls High School, a grant titled The Welcome Wagon, again awarded by the Foundation and Alumni Association. Katie Fetterman from Richardson Elementary School, Virtual Materials. Again, various grants received by Richardson. Tara Gemmel from Preston Elementary, Teaching with Technology, was a Donors Choose grant. Julie Hall, principal of Richardson Elementary School, Pets for the Classroom, and again, various grants. I know Julie is here.
Julie's here.
I see her. I just want to know more about these pets, and are they reptiles or?
We have guinea pigs, hermit crabs, and fish, but they
Oh.
all had to go home because of the cleaning protocol
Yeah.
for COVID, so many of them are now being
Oh.
kept home.
Okay. Olivia Hershey from Cuyahoga Falls High School, the Caucus of Color, Rebuilding the Structures That have Torn Us Down, a GAR Foundation grant. Liv? Liv is also the recipient of the First 45, Tigers Helping Tigers from Day One to Post-Secondary Success, another GAR Foundation grant. Congratulations. Trisha Hollub from Richardson Elementary, Comfortable Classroom Conversations and Spelling and Comprehension Remotely from Richardson, various grants they received. Holly Hugg from DeWitt Elementary School, Life Skills Learning Room from the GAR Foundation. Nice job. Michelle Hummel from Preston Elementary, Representation in the Classroom from Donors Choose. Jackie Krish from Richardson Elementary, 15 grants for reading, math, finance, and other resources from Donors Choose.
You said 15.
15 grants. Yeah, wasn't the name of the grant. She got 15 of them
15 grants.
from Donors Choose. Tina Magis, also from Richardson. We learn here, we learn there, we can learn anywhere. Various grants received by Richardson. Alicia Martinjack from DeWitt Elementary, the Life Skills Learning Room was a GAR Foundation grant. Steve McIntosh from Cuyahoga Falls High School, Learning Garden Network was a GAR Foundation grant. Steve also received the Intro to Urban Agriculture grant, which was a foundation and alumni grant. Jackie Mishler from Richardson Elementary, Language Lovin' First Graders. Nicole Moore from DeWitt Elementary, the Life Skills Learning Room, GAR Foundation. Jessica Moore from Richardson Elementary, Scholastic's Books for Virtual Learning and Cleveland Cavs Backpacks. Karen Morse from DeWitt Elementary, Life Skills Learning Room from GAR. Steve Newland from Cuyahoga Falls High School, the Learning Garden Network from GAR. Christy Pavia from Richardson Elementary, Because of You, we can read Winn-Dixie, Richardson. Stephanie Pettit from Richardson Elementary, 8 grants for PE and wellness from Donors Choose. 8. Cindy Probonic from Preston Elementary, Science Exploration Foundation and Alumni Association grant. Jessica Reikley from Silver Lake Elementary, Hands-on Math from Foundation and Alumni Association. Trish Ricker from DeWitt Elementary. So Trish is the secretary at DeWitt Elementary, was also involved in this. Outdoor Black Tiger Zen Den from GAR Foundation. Heidi Short, also from DeWitt, Outdoor Black Tiger Zen Den from GAR. Kim Strebler from DeWitt, Life Skills Learning Room from GAR Foundation. Sarah Sabaticki, also from DeWitt, Outdoor Black Tiger Zen Den from GAR Foundation. Lydia Taraji from Richardson Elementary, Let's Explore Careers from the Foundation and Alumni Association. Angie Watson from Silver Lake Elementary School, Kindergarten Sightward Stars from Foundation and Alumni Association. And finally, from DeWitt, Anita Wilson with the Life Skills Learning Room from GAR Foundation.
All right. So how are we going to do this? Get a picture of them. Okay.
They're the
Why don't you guys come right here?
people that did the work.
You guys come right here. And
We'll let them go there till they get enough crowd.
probably make a couple of rows, huh?
Back row for me. Front row for me.
Okay. Are we ready? Why don't the front row move this way? One person. Keep going, keep going, keep going. There you go. Now, Liv, get right in the middle. Excellent. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Well, let me just say, I'm so happy those of you who could join us this evening were able to do so. And we're so appreciative of the extra time and effort you take to write grants and find cool things for our kids. So thank you so very much. Let's give them all one more round.
If I could ask a question of Dr. Cruz, since these are mostly educational pieces, is there some way that throughout the year we could work with these people that got grants to maybe take pictures, maybe at the end of the year highlight how these grants that we're celebrating now as words became a reality for a student? I know we're gonna talk to Mr. Speaks later in the meeting. That might be something you work with him on, but I'd love to find a way to like highlight and share out more to our community. And I think pictures sometimes help.
I agree. Good idea. Yes, I will follow up.
Now we're ready for our second item in presentations, which is the introduction of our new district social workers. Dr. Nichols?
I'd like to invite Mr. Cameron Lazar and Mrs. Holly Merkel to the podium to introduce our new additions. So come on up.
Good evening, President Schofield, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you for inviting us here to the board meeting, community members and partners. It's really been a labor of love over the past couple of years, working with our wellness and success team to strategically justify and establish clear expectations for a couple of new positions, our school social workers that I have the pleasure of introducing to you today. So I'll ask them to come up at this time. We have Sierra Oden, who is our new elementary school social worker. Thank you very much. And I would also like to introduce to you Alyssa Hicks, who is our secondary school social worker. So just ecstatic about these two new individuals and the roles that we've been able to create. And Holly Merkel is going to come up and talk a little bit about some of the work they're already engaged in.
Oh, darn, I was going to put them on the spot.
When Sierra and Alyssa arrived with us in early August, one of the first things we did was review the district mission and vision and strategic plan. And we had a great conversation about how this newly formed department could ensure our work remained focused, proactive, and aligned with the district's core business of student growth and achievement. Because social workers often wear many different hats, we recognized the need to clarify our role within the district and identified 3 areas of focus for the department. They include supporting students' mental health and social emotional learning, family, school, community connections, and attendance supports. In no time, Sierra and Alyssa hit the ground running with these priorities at the forefront. Before school had even started, they were conducting home visits to establish transition plans with students, linking families to basic resources such as housing, school clothing, and school supplies, and even meeting with the families in the community, for example, to ensure one of our youngest learners had the glasses that he needed to start school. They were even all in when I asked for their help with the distribution of 1,000 birdie bags in one afternoon. This turned out to be quite the adventure and a very physical task on a very hot day. But when the day was all over, they commented, quote, "These are the days that I live for." They were so thrilled to be able to help our students and families in such a tangible way. I could go on, but I'm going to point out one last thing, highlight that they're doing, and that's their proactive attendance supports. In collaboration with the buildings, they've already started making phone calls to some of our students who are showing signs of attendance issues. And later this week, we'll start making home visits for students who have not yet shown up to school. So as you can see, I'm very proud and impressed with the great work they've already done just within the first month, during the first month, which is just amazing. And we're really excited to see what work they'll do in the future.
And I love the black tiger dress.
I'll turn it back over to Cameron.
So in culmination, we just wanted to show our great appreciation to the Board of Education for the advocacy of these 2 positions and ensuring that they became a reality. So great appreciation to you, and welcome, Alyssa and Sierra.
I have a question for the 2 of you. So I know social work is such a huge umbrella, and what motivated you to want to be specifically a school social worker, so we can learn a little bit more about you, both of you.
You got to step to the podium. So it helps us record.
So I guess I always wanted to be a social worker,
in high school. So I thought I was going to be a counseling track, and then I got into undergrad, and then I learned more about social work. And so I always wanted to work in the schools as either a counselor or a social worker. I just feel like schools is the best place to try to reach the whole child. You can like either go to the homes or work with the kid here at school. And you just have the whole student to be able to work with them. So I just love the schools because most likely kids either like coming to school or don't like coming to school. But education is the place that they usually house. And so it's just easier to reach in, to grab them, to help them be successful down the line. So I just always like community schools for that.
All right, so I had no idea I wanted to do school social work. I thought I wanted to be a teacher until I started taking education classes, and I realized quickly that's not my calling. Social work, I just really enjoy kind of what Holly alluded to, that tangible impact that you can see. So there's a need and we can meet it, and just knowing that. The reasons I wanted to be in schools is because we spend more time with some of these students than their families. And I think that we have an opportunity to make a real impact, build some strong relationships. And so I love that about being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just want to add one comment too. Mr. Lazar has led our Student Wellness and Success Committee and done so strategically. And as a result, we've come to the point where we were able to hire you within a plan, a well thought out plan. So under his guidance, I think that we're able to see some real tangible results from that planning process. Secondly, Ms. Holly Merkel, a licensed social worker herself with plenty of years in the field, is going to provide you with excellent guidance moving forward. We couldn't be happier to have all of you working with us, and we're so grateful for you becoming Black Tigers. We look forward to working with you throughout this year and into the future. Thank you so very much. Now we are ready for our item 3 presentation, which is our construction update with TDA and Hammond. And thanks to the planning committee members who were able to join us for this meeting tonight.
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thanks for having us again tonight. I'm going to give a quick snapshot of where we're at in the construction design and construction timeline, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Caswell, my team member here, who's going to walk through some of our communication efforts that we've done over the past few months, and then looking to some opportunities in the future as far as communications go through TDA. So some of you know that we've been working very hard the past few months this summer in design and production to put together what we call our schematic design submission, which is our first milestone in the design of the project. We issued our schematic design submission this past Friday on the 27th, on August 27th. That was issued to the district, the Board of Education, the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, who is our partner, our funding partner in this project, and to Hammond Construction, our CMR partner in the project, the construction side of this project. The state's going to review those documents for compliance with their design manual and compliance for their part of the funding. And then Hammond's going to review those documents along with our estimator. Hammond will estimate the documents, and we'll put a schematic estimate to it. But really, schematic design is where we put our plans and specifications together to date. We put our pencils down. We take a break, and we put some numbers to it and understand where we're at to our budget. The next step. So through September, we'll be in that estimating process. But the exciting part is in October, we'll have our third community engagement session where we will present our design to the community following our schematic design estimate and submission. So that will be in October. And then in the meantime, this month on the 22nd, we're meeting with our planning committee on Wednesday, the 22nd. That, I guess that summarizes kind of our next steps through the next month or so. And I will, I'll take this time now to turn it over to Ryan, and he'll walk through our communications presentation.
Thank you, Scott. Madam President, board, community members, educators, it's nice to stand here before you again and just, as Scott mentioned, give you a brief update on some of the communication efforts that we've had during the construction process so far, and then paint a picture on some of the steps that we'll be going to in the future. We have a slide deck which is over on the side. I'll reference that a little bit as we go along, but I'll keep things moving. For some of you who've seen these pieces come out, you'll have been familiar with it, but I wanted to give you a little bit of an inside look into responses we've gotten back from it, how that's kind of affected and drawn out more engagement in the building process, how that's informed the design team, and really what our next steps are moving forward with that. So really at the beginning of this, we partnered with the district as a communications department inside the architecture firm to outline a couple key touch points that we could begin to create media for to support the project going forward. And really, we identified a few key areas in terms of creating content, as we call it. So that's photography, video, text, all of those assets to kind of explain or simplify this process to the community. So we identified creating those and sharing those assets out with the district, and then really providing written updates at key touchstones throughout the project in the design phase, just to keep people informed. But again, really trying to work together as that partner to help create some of the materials that in fact we can then take out and help share out this process. So really it is a joint venture, and it's been a real pleasure to be able to work with the district on this project. We can move on to the next one here. So really at the outset, I mean, we're going back to the beginning of this project, right? We had in-person kickoff events that was streamed live. There was an educational visioning session. There were a number of educator engagements where the architects met with educators to understand their needs for the building. There were a lot of meetings with the OFCC. Again, some of these being in-person public meetings, some of them being sort of a core team meeting, which is a select group of people kind of hashing out some of the issues that come up. But really, there was a whole laundry list of things that happened early on in the process. This includes an eco-charrette, right? Understanding how the green side of the building can function, right? HVAC, lighting, indoor air quality, those sorts of things really taking into account in the final building. So there were a lot of those types of engagements that happened early on that informed a lot of the work that's going to happen in the summer. So we put out a lot of communications very early on in the process, and you can go to the next slide, Ryan. And so what you're seeing here is a timeline really of the design phase of this project, right? This reaches out into the fall of 2022 when everything is complete, right? And construction begins after that. But there were 4 very early pieces that were put out that helped inform, not only engage the community, but also helped provide information to the designers on how to move forward with the structure of the building. So the first one there, which is grayed out, you'll see it's sort of a project kickoff, announcing and introducing the architect, the construction manager, to the community at large. We went into visual preferencing. So again, going out, speaking with community members, not only in an in-person event, but then also digitally reaching out through surveys and comments to understand what their preferences were for the exterior of the building. Educational visioning, so explaining out and showing not only a video production, but in sort of a documented form, what some of the important aspects that the community felt, educators, the district felt were so important to this building project. And then again, with that piece, trying to sum up and give that back to the community, to those who are interested and involved in the project, to see how that can inform the design process. And so now we're coming up to the next 2 that are kind of on our radar, right? We've had these last couple of months where the architects have been putting pen to paper, incorporating all of this feedback that they've gotten early on in the process. And so as we're looking out ahead, we're seeing August and September and trying to report back how some of those, that feedback that we got impacted the final design. And then again, really something that we're very excited to is looking forward to October and sort of being able to unveil and show the building that's being designed so everyone can see just, where that work is going and how that impacts everyone. Looking out ahead and into the future, of course, as design development and some of the costs and pricing come down, we want to be able to show not only exterior renderings, but then potentially going inside the building, doing walkthroughs and things like that. So we can, again, really place ourselves in that space and understand what that's going to be like before it's built. And then we also find, even thinking beyond that, sometimes community members or others may not understand how all of these spaces can work, whether it's a collaborative, a flexible space, these new types of classrooms, 21st century design. We're able to help, again, create some of that content to explain how these spaces work and why it may not look like a traditional school that most people would be used to, with a double loaded corridor, classrooms on both sides, and just explain how some of that can work. Again, so educators, so community members can be excited about what's going into this project. So again, that's really looking at those touch points going out into the future. Go to the next slide, Ryan. And I just wanted to report out on some of the impact, because I think we can roll this stuff out and we don't actually really quantify or maybe understand what's coming in from it. But that first piece that was released early on in the design process, it went out to about 9,000, 10,000 people saw that. And we got hundreds of comments that came back, not only from excitement and support of the project, but also that was sort of the first test in putting out sort of this visual preference. What do you think the architectural style of this school could be? And again, soliciting that feedback from the community so that as we go into the design process, we're armed with sort of that feedback from the community. So again, you'll see there, hundreds of people were on the website, on this page, reading it for minutes and minutes and minutes. Right? To me, when I look at information like that, you can understand someone is most likely looking through the material, whether it's looking at photos, looking at what was reported on, and reading the information or watching the live stream that's there. So we caught a lot of people early on in the process to kind of explain what's going on and what's the start of this. You can go to the next one, Ryan. The next one I just want to spotlight for us here is when we did an expose on educational visioning, right? So in terms of being able to bring the story of what was important to the community, what was important to the district, a video production was put up, as well as a summary of all of the key points that were taken away. Not all of us had the pleasure of being able to sit there for 8 hours and talk about it, do the activities and the exercises, but we still wanted to report that out and at least bring people on board so they can understand what is going into this school. So again, when that schematic design is released, when we continue to talk about the building, people can understand what those priorities are. And so if questions arise, we have a record where we can look back and talk about why that was important. So again, we were able to catch thousands of members of your community, our community, in showing that information to them so that they can be as encouraged and excited about this project, I think, as all of us are. You can go to the next one, Ryan. And then not only from the 612 standpoint, but also some of the smaller pieces of the project, right? So in parallel with the 612 campus, there's a new playground going on at Silver Lake. So we had the opportunity to engage with the students and ask them how they thought their playground should be designed, because again, bringing in the collaborative nature of this, we can engage them to understand what are their needs or wants or thoughts for their playground. Now I have to say, the student that told me they wanted a 2x2 by 8 foot deep swimming pool outside the building, we may not be able to satisfy that, but it was a good thought, And some of working with the elementary students on this is such a joy because of how much energy they bring to this. But again, it's just another effort of trying to bring people inside the building project and all of the different pieces of the building project so that they, community, all of us, the district, we can all be excited about, the things that are happening there. And we got a tremendous response from people who watched that, who felt very passionate. So many different alumni were writing in also, I went to school here in the 50s. I went here in the 40s. Back then we only had metal swings and there was none of the safety equipment, So it's like, let's toughen up our kids or something. But, a lot of response kind of coming back from that. And again, reaching an online audience with this information. So we can move ahead, Ryan. And really, when we created these pieces, sent them out, we were targeting a couple very specific groups, right? The Akron Beacon Journal has picked up, a number of the updates, whether it's about the 612 building or other information. We're able to reach news outlets that way. Cuyahoga Falls District, of course, the building community website, some of the materials are posted there for people to find. Bond levy campaign supporters, many of them have shared a lot of these updates and the groups that are out there. And then, of course, community leaders, those who are involved in the project and want to help support this and talk about this with their neighbors in this forum. Those are really the groups that we target when we create these. Move ahead, Ron. And by our calculations, since we've started this and we're releasing posts into this specific community, we've estimated we're reaching around 40 to 50,000 people in the community. Some of those are duplicates, right? You'll have people who come back to look again, but it's a pretty broad swath. And not only is it that number of people who are seeing it, but we're hearing feedback. We were getting thousands of comments off of a lot of this material over the course of when it's created. And we anticipate much of that to continue, of course, as the building is talked about more and more with schematic design being completed. You can see just a few examples of some of the things that we pulled just off of some of the social posts that we've seen. Emails have come in, and I know other communications to the district as well. And just with that, 5,000 minutes have been read about what this project is doing, where it's going, and what's going into it. So again, we're trying to build that story so that as the schematic design is finished, as beams are coming out of the ground, so to speak, and construction is started, we can continue to show a long tail of what went into this for people to support and get behind. Upcoming pieces, we talked about it briefly. Early this September, we plan to release another update, again, for the community, in conjunction with designers, featuring all of the different work that's taken place over the last few months. It can go quiet and it seems like not much is happening, but there's a lot that happens between sort of the start information gathering and that schematic design being released. And we want everyone to fully understand that. And then again, sometime in October, releasing hopefully images, renderings, and designs of the building. Put a little pressure on Scott here and the design team for that, but being able to show the results of this work so we can kind of drill in on what that architecture looks like and start that discussion. And so that really ends what we're talking about as far as communications engagement. I think looking out in the future, we look forward to continuing to work with the district and not only reach online audiences, but written audiences, for those who don't get on computers much and we can't reach or measure that. We look forward to reaching them as well, and then just continuing to develop pieces in support of this. Are there any questions from the board or anyone else?
I'll start with a comment. Your work is phenomenal. The video for both Silver Lake and for the educational visioning session are absolutely phenomenal. Like, you deserve all the kudos for that.
Appreciate it.
And anyone that's seen them I've only heard positive things about it.
Appreciate
And anytime we do communicate with our community about this, like you've shown to us, people get really excited about it. I think the concern of the board and of the planning committee is that we're not communicating with our community enough. And that's really where we're at, that we're not showing the community along the way how their voice is impacting the process. And I believe that they are, because I've seen that, and the five of us are deeply invested in every step of the way. But the community is not being brought along on that journey, and it's causing issues, and it's difficult for our planning committee people to explain to the community what's going on. And so part of that, two things from our last two planning committee meetings that I feel like we were missioned with as a board. One is to create a one-pager of information that we can give to our community, and you're not going to like the deadline, by September 13th, because we're having this welcome week.
Of course.
And then at the end of September, there's a Chamber Community Expo that we'd also like to share that information with. Along with, I know our levy committee is interested in knowing what are they supposed to say about the project. I was at an event in the community last night. There were only 25 people there. 3 of them asked me what's going on with the building project. So people aren't getting the information enough to feel like something's happening. And that's a real problem for us as a district. And secondly, there was a concern that nobody on the core team represents the actual community that's paying for the project. And I can't disagree with that concern either. And so the planning committee felt very strongly that there should be a Board of Education member on the committee. Now, the only person on the Board of Education that's guaranteed to be here January 1st is Ms. White. So she would be a great candidate to serve on that because it guarantees continuity. It's the reality of the situation. So she would be a great candidate for that. So as a board, whether it's Ms. White or someone else to my left, we feel strongly that somebody from the board needs to be part of that.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I can't speak to the core team specifically, but I think if there is a concern about the timeliness and the amount of communication that's going out around the project, I think we can definitely reorient some of the pieces and maybe slim it down, break it up over smaller chunks, so to speak, to release that information in a faster manner if that's desired.
I know Scott and Abby connected me to you via email, so I'd be happy to continue that conversation sometime tomorrow via email as well.
We do have some members of our planning committee with us this evening in the audience. Do any of you or any others who are in attendance this evening have questions for the folks from TDA? Schaefer? Yes, we are.
Would there be a chance to have that piece ready for that open house, maybe community members could have that page at that time, maybe aren't on social media and they can actually have it physically, they can walk in, look at it.
Mr. Bugatti, may I ask you for, I know you had established a date and time for the Newberry walkthrough. Would you share that with folks?
Yes, that would be September 11th at 10 o'clock, probably 10 to 2. If we do bring on impact group, I was going to talk to them about how they would like to roll that out. Has to be obviously rather fast, but we were looking at September 11th from 10 to 2.
Okay,
Do
great.
we know if the Falls Press is going to be able to run that this weekend? Because it's the last weekend that our community newspaper goes out before that. So if we can't get it in, I would rather postpone it to make sure that we communicate with the community that it's happening so people that want to be there can be there. If we're able to get it in, great. I think September 11th is great. But if we can't get it in our own community newspaper, I think we're probably failing on the communication end.
Let me send Mr. Karen an email.
He's
Thank you.
listening. He'll probably email you shortly.
Yeah.
I know he listens to it.
Any final questions for
Scott, did you
TDA
want
or?
to speak on any at all on Newberry, on that Newberry thing?
Yeah, the only, I was just, it was on the tip of my tongue to jump in there. That is one thing I neglected to update everybody on. So, yeah, we're planning the walkthrough. On the design team is putting together demolition drawings. It sounds funny that a design team puts together demolition drawings, but we put the demolition drawings together and we hand them over to Hammond. So that is the first that's the first action people will see on site this fall, is the demolition of Newberry. So like I said, we're wrapping up the documents for that here this week, actually. We'll have the walkthrough sometime soon, hopefully on 11th if we can, or a later date if that's necessary. And then you'll start to see some things happen. The community will start to see some things happening on site in early fall.
Great. Board members, any questions?
I'd just like to thank this team. I think we have been so fortunate to hire the very best. All of your work has been exceptional from our opinion. You listen, you take note of our requests, our concerns, and you respond to us very quickly. So I'd like to thank the team that we put together for your attentiveness to our project, because it's phenomenal. I'm very excited, and I know our community members will be as well when they see the work you've folks do.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your time this evening.
Jeff, do you have any update on your end? I know you said you stopped in the estimator's office. What's going on there?
Anthony, I did because I knew you were going to ask.
Thank you, Jeff.
And so if you're in our office, the estimators are across the hall. They saw me coming.
And they closed the door.
No, they locked the door. And I yelled through the door. I said, "So what do you think?" And they said, "Go away and don't come back unless you're called." But they didn't even know what I was there to ask about. That's just their typical response to me when I show up at their door. So yeah, it's always trouble. It's too early. But they are, they're working on them. And I think when the community, when we roll this out too, I think they're going to have a level of understanding that, there are points of time, the schematic design and the design development, and there's blocks of time in between there. And there's, we can report that we're working on it and you really can't appreciate, but I think when you see the end product, you're going to say, yeah, to get to that level, the architects, there's a tremendous amount of work involved with that. So I think that we're right on the edge of, being able to see something and understanding. And most people's frame of reference for construction is maybe a home that they've built or they've watched built. And, you see a home go up in 10, 12 months. And it's like, well, why is it taking us 10, 12 months to design before you even start? And that's just the nature of the business. It takes time, a lot of stakeholders. But again, I think that, when the schematics, when we roll this out and you see the work product, I think there's going to be a greater appreciation for what everybody's been doing. Because if they haven't been working that hard until now, they wouldn't be able to get to that point. Yeah.
Thank
So.
you. And then Dr. Nichols, when is the next core committee meeting so that we can have Ms. White put that on her schedule before we move on?
Let me look in I put it in Friday notes every week. Tomorrow.
What time?
1 to 2:30.
It's always 1
normally.
o'clock.
Always 1 o'clock on Thursday, every other Thursday.
September 2nd, core team meeting upstairs and at 1 o'clock.
We could add her to committee reports from that on.
Yeah, and then where,
Upstairs in
okay, that's what I thought. I want to make sure.
Thank you, Ms. White, for your.
Sure, not a problem.
For being volunteer.
I did.
I only volunteered her because I knew she'd say.
Volunteered.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Belby,
We
can I
appreciate it.
question?
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry.
What-
Before you guys sit down, would it be a possibility to have like a community update based on the monthly update? So whatever Scott and Abby report at the first meeting, just kind of a synopsis of that is available to be distributed out. So everybody can look forward to a once a month update. Is that something that we would want to implement or we could implement?
We could.
I think it's a great
I think
idea,
it's a
Mr.
great idea.
Belby. We can put that on our website and folks who can't be actually in attendance to hear their report could access it. Based on the information you presented
Okay.
earlier, a lot of our folks are accessing electronically. So it seems like a great media manner, I guess.
Nothing major, nothing like the
Right.
videos you're putting together.
Right.
Just a snapshot of
Sure.
this month we worked on this.
I
this
like
is the
that
updated
idea.
Timeline for this. and
Mhm.
These are the upcoming events.
Yep.
For the project.
Thank
Good.
you for that
The great
suggestion.
benefit is that our soon-to-be communications consultant is sitting right here. He's hearing it all and taking it in.
Timing. All right, guys, I think this time, that's it. So thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate you.
Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Our next presentation this evening, and please, planning committee members and so on, please, you're free to go. You don't need to sit through the rest of board business. We're grateful for the time you spent with us this evening. Thank you. Item 5, leading with focus book study update. Dr. Cruz.
No.
No, 4.
Number 4.
Oh, gosh. Look at me.
It's number 4, but it's
It
still,
is number
it's still what you said.
There it is, number 4, the impact group.
Is that,
No, it's not on the
No.
original. That's it.
Yep, gotcha.
How's everybody doing this evening?
Doing well.
Thank you for having us. We very much appreciate it. My name is Tom Speaks, own the Impact Group, 1990 graduate of Cuyahoga Falls. It is so weird being back in this high school. It's awesome, and it's like a flood of memories, and it's just wow. It's pretty cool. Okay, the objective tonight is to really describe the capabilities of the Impact Group. We've presented to you all before. I wanted just to go through a presentation real quickly at high level to give you an idea of what we're all about. Impact Group started the company 21 years ago. We are a communications firm. We have a specialization in school districts all over Ohio. Gosh, we've pretty much, I'm going to go into some of the different services we offer, but school districts are very much our core. I very much ask you just to talk to some of our references. We've worked with about everybody twice, and it's been pretty awesome. Okay, I'm going to go through each of these different items here. Ryan, you want to go ahead? Yeah, once again, the objective here is just to show some of the things we do. Branding. We have a bunch of designers on staff. The idea is not just overall branding for a district, but there's many different cool things you all do. And the reality is in communications, I think sometimes school districts, bless your hearts, you try to explain everything in great detail. Frankly, people want to see things in quick snaps. They want to see very quick things. So if you have a new initiative, a new cool thing going out, sometimes to put a graphic design around it or a brand really goes a long way. So as we go into some of these new things, if we work with you all, we're going to be branding an awful lot of things. So full visual design department. Move on. Social media. Social media is obviously huge. So the idea is we would work with you all to decide which elements on social media are you using, which graphics do we need, how to support you. Really, as this proposal moves forward, the idea is you're essentially working with us about 30 hours per month. And what we're going to have to do is work with your team to decide what are the priorities, because frankly, there's just a ton happening. So is it social media? Is it newsletter? Is it presentation creation? Is it where are we marketing other aspects? We need to know what those are. But social media is one. We need to know exactly what you need from us. We can produce content. We can produce visuals, whatever you need. We can get that out. General communications. Once again, whatever we need to get out to the community, whether that's newsletters, whether that is email blasts, whatever. One of the things I'm going to tell you guys, if we work together a lot, is everyone wants to know, do we do a newsletter? Or do we do social media? Or do we do a video? The reality is you do them all. People need to hear things 11 to 15 times before it gets into their noggin. Because people out there, they're busy, they're paying mortgages, and they have ill parents, and they're taking kids to soccer practice. The last thing they're interested in, frankly, honest, I hate to say it, is the latest board update, right? So what we have to do is you need to prioritize what the communication items are, which are most important. Then we look at all the different mediums, and once you have your message, then you get that message out again and again and again. There's something called 333. Have I talked about to you guys this before? I'm just going to say it again because it's psychological, how we all get information. 85% of people get all the information they're going to use to make a buying or voting decision in 3 seconds. Lord help us. Okay, this is the way it works. You have like 2 to 7 words to package a message so people, because once again, people are busy. 333. 30, about 10% of people will give you 30 seconds to understand a complicated topic. It's a couple bullet points. And we got to know who are our target audiences here. We have parents who are very invested in the Cuyahoga Falls schools. We have senior citizens who maybe aren't that connected, and everything in between. We need to communicate to those different people with different bullet points. 333, the last 3 is 3 minutes. About 5% of people will give you 3 minutes to understand a complicated topic. And this, Christy, I love financial people about this, because financial folks, what you guys generally want to do is bludgeon people with pie charts, which is awesome.
I put in memes in my presentations.
No. But what we got to do is we got to lead with that 3 and 30, and then we have all that evidence on the backside, which is really important. So as you get into these, as you get into levies and you get into these construction updates, all the stuff is really important. But if we're leading with all the details, we're missing 95% of people. Does that make sense? So I'm working with Ryan and with others. I'm sure that's where we'll go. So general communications, we need to get that out. Ryan, if you'd advance. Levies, we would not do advocacy for you. That's a different thing. But there are facts about a levy. voting for means X, voting against means Y. This is what the financial realities are, and it's the district's responsibility to make sure that the community has enough information to make an intelligent decision. So we got to get all that information out there, and then the population will make a decision based upon whatever they have. But we need to make sure that the community really understands what the issues are, what the finances are, and all the rest. So levies. Crisis communication. Things happen. This is, if you guys haven't noticed, the world seems a little frazzled these days. And just communications, we found, I'm afraid we've done an awful lot of, like, whether it's a suicide situation, a person really gets hurt, people make very, very bad decisions, and everything in between. Sometimes the school district needs a little bit of help when things go off kilter. So we were able to be there to help out, because your brand as a school district, boy, is your brand important, right? You work so hard to create a trusted image and a trusted, that if something goes south, that can really be at jeopardy. So you need to make sure that you're really protecting your brand. So we do quite a bit of crisis communications. Strategic campaigns. The idea here is, what are some big things you want to do? If you guys tell us, we need to recruit bus drivers. We are doing something with, the idea of health and wellness for kids is our number one. Suicide prevention, whatever it is, what are those big idea campaigns that we will then work with you all to package, communicate, so people really understand those. So we would then work with your team to establish what those are. Ryan, you and I are like this, like a mind. Man, you are good. COVID-19, you guys may have heard there's a pandemic cooking. This is so all over the place that the ability to communicate and communicate well, to be ahead of things, to really make sure that people have everything they need. It's such a fluid situation that we're there to help with that. And then miscellaneous, just whatever the 7th grade spelling bee comes on, or somebody wins a robotics thing or whatever, you give us a call. We put something very cool together to get it out there. One of the things we need to really work on, and you guys as a district and others as well, you do so many cool things. One of the things we find in districts is you guys get used to the fact you do cool things all the time, and you forget to tell people you're doing cool things all the time. Because we just did this cool robotics thing, or we did this cool, because that's what we do. Holy moly, we got to package that and get that out to the community, because they're going to be blown away if they see that stuff. So the idea here is to work with your building principals and the rest to begin to understand some of these awesome things you're doing. And we call it like a positive deposit, in that bad things are going to happen. No matter, it's just because we're human beings and bad things happen. So that's kind of a withdrawal from your reputation bank. We need to continue to make positive deposits of all these awesome things you're doing. And they just, again and again, the Falls News Press, on the social media, all the rest, they're just seeing everywhere. We're just telling the truth of the cool stuff you're doing, but we got to get that out there. Okay. And then just working with you all, to consistently, what is your message across all platforms? We need to make sure that, once again, I said, what is the central message from the district? How do we make sure that everyone is kind of singing the same tune? We connect to a wider audience, multiple avenues for messaging.
Frankly, if you go to our website right now, you'll see that online ticketing piece that they created.
Excellent. Well, hey.
I've gotten an email and a Facebook message.
What do you know about that? Okay, it's already working. It's cool. So the idea then is to really have a unified messaging. And the last piece we'd like to do is to actually do a messaging training with the staff, and that the staff, you are all out in the community, and everybody is pretty well intentioned. And we need to know that if somebody says, hey, what's going on with that building project? I'm glad you asked. These 3 things. What's going on with this levy that's coming up? I'm glad you asked. These 3 things. If not, everybody's just on such islands. So unified message, multiple mediums, working with your staff to get that out.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. And any questions from the board at all?
One of the things I noticed was when you would show different pictures of different school districts, that there was whatever imaging you used was very consistent. That's something that when we had Mr. Wazoka, something he started, that there was a look to so that people knew that was something from the school district.
Right.
So I really did like that kind of continuing that, so people, even if they just see it by glancing, they know, oh, this is from the school district. And if there's somebody that wants to know, then they know to look at that. So I really like that. I liked everything you had to say. And you also come highly recommended from Ms. Stoikoi, whose opinion I hold in high
That's
regard
very
from
nice.
her
Well, thank
tenure.
you.
So,
Even though I busted on treasures, wow.
Sorry. You got Chris is gone, so I said it was
Yeah,
okay
got it.
now.
but one thing, so how, this is always our struggle in the district is that what is the message that our staff have and what's the message that our community have? So how do you work to understand how our community likes to be communicated to and like different aspects of community?
Well, we're going to have to engage, or we're going to have to just have discussions. We're going to have to talk to folks. We're going to have to understand. And frankly, a lot of the research, which I'm sure we'll partner with those who have already done some of this to understand what some of those pieces are. I can say that, once again, I think people get a little too focused on should we do the newsletter or should we do, and frankly, it's the message.
Yeah.
And we're going to, with the big things you have coming up are the buildings, the levies, and the rest. We have to decide what those are, make sure everybody's in the same page. And truthfully, in a lot of ways, they're the same, right? Because we want our staff to understand what we're getting out to the community. So really, we're going to need to put together a deck of what those messages are and just make sure everybody's on the same page.
And two, I think it would be beneficial if somehow we could engage the five of us here because the nice thing about our board that we have is that we all come from different life experiences, different neighborhoods, and we all have different people that where I'm the board member, certain people go to. Ms. Schofield's the board member, certain people go to, they wouldn't come to me. And so we hear different things from different parts of the community. And I think if you hear all five of those versions, you'll get a good idea of the community as a whole.
Excellent. Be happy to do that.
Any other questions for the impact group? Thanks for being with
Thank
us
you for having
tonight.
us. We really appreciate it.
that very much. Dr. Cruz, I think we're now ready for leading with focus book study.
I don't have a slideshow, but I brought props.
Okay.
So we, last year, the board and the administrators engaged in a book study of the book Focus by Mike Schmoker. And this year, we took this book and we got it for every staff member. And so this year, they're engaging in this book study. In fact, they all received the book at our convocation day. And recently have been engaged in some of the work. So part of the leading with focus is that as administrators, we are working really hard to set very clear and manageable expectations, and that we are hyper focused on the core work, the student achievement and growth. In that hyper focus, we are learning and growing as leaders. And there's a lot of reference in Schmoker's work to this hedgehog principle, the story of the hedgehog and the fox. And why the hedgehog is so successful is his ability to just tune out what doesn't matter, kind of just his hyper focused on what's important. And that's not easy to do as a leader. So we're working through that. We've just started as administrators with diving into this book. And we're looking at there's 10 major steps. So you've got your book, page 113 to 115. And we're going to be starting with that. We're going to be looking at these major steps, and our administrative instructional council is going to prioritize which of these steps we want to focus on for our work as leaders. We're going to take those steps and evaluate how our own action steps and goals are aligned with those. So that's just a little piece of what we're planning to do. We're all diving into that. The focus book study for our staff, We asked for them to, well, first, we set very clear, manageable expectations
Amen.
as the leaders. And those objectives were to provide a reminder of our beliefs about effective instructional practices. Just cannot stress enough the importance of what we're teaching and how we're teaching it. And our second objective was to establish clear collaborative expectations to ensure student growth and achievement. So not only did we provide some directions on what we wanted the groups to discuss, but we gave some guidance on how to make that happen. So they were asked or will be asked to discuss the need for simplicity, the need to focus on one thing or very few things at a time. They're going to be diving into authentic literacy, which has a direct connection to our strategic plan, and how, as teachers, can they commit to that authentic reading, writing, and discussion. And we also wanted to direct them, if you have in their books, they have a quote. Leaders must be seen as clarifiers, focusers, keepers of the core, who incessantly cut through the clutter to distinguish between what is merely important and what is imperative, those few things that you must never forget. So we asked them, as leaders in their classroom, how do you distinguish what is imperative? So these are just discussion points that our teachers are engaging in and having some collaborative conversation around our core business. So that's kind of how we're implementing this as leaders, but also engaging in our own work and diving into this text is a little further. I'm trying to stay focused here, concise, 3 seconds, 30 seconds. So I'm done. Questions,
Thank
comments?
you, Dr. Cruz.
I thought it was a great read personally. I really
Mhm.
enjoyed it and learned a lot. Is there any way we can, or perhaps we already did, share that 10-point summary plan with Mr. Moyer so he's aware of
sure.
what we're focusing on with our administrators as he leads us through the next book study?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I will certainly share those with him.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So my follow-up question, page 39.
Yes.
So literacy includes the ability to read, discuss, and write in the analytical, explanatory, and especially argumentative mode in every course, including electives in the arts. Now, one of the things we know is that at our May 19th board meeting, we heard a short presentation about how a fairly large group of staff, faculty and staff, were going to be engaging in reading a variety of texts, middle school and high school folks, and then working towards the 6-12 literacy study, which is currently underway. So that obviously is going to cut across a variety of disciplines, not just be focused on high school English teachers, for example. At that time, we asked if the overall plan for that study could be shared with the board. And I think probably now that summer is over and school's resumed and we have folks back in the classrooms, perhaps this would be a good time for you to share that at some point with the board so that we can see how all of these pieces are coming together.
Absolutely. I think it would be great to see how we are taking this focus on literacy and how that applies to not just an English class, how we're really watching it come alive in that focus on the oral and written communication and what that looks like so that we can have some of that visibility of the learning that's happening in our classrooms.
Right, exactly. Yes, and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Board members, other comments for Dr. Cruz?
I just want to highlight an example of how that's happening. I was talking with a student who's the son of a family I'm very good friends with over the weekend. He told me he dropped pre-calc because on the first day the teacher said you have to write a paragraph every week, and he said, I'm not writing in math class. And I said, whatever class you picked up is going to have you write too. But you can see from that example. It's perhaps not the destination we hope to achieve, but the fact is that it's happening in some of our classrooms. So I was happy to hear that. He wasn't happy to hear he would have to write in his class that he picked up from that as well.
Board members?
Yeah, I have one. I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm asking anyway. Sometimes when students are writing research papers, they tend to seek secondary sources that confirm whatever argument it is they're trying to make, instead of looking at differing opinions to kind of come to a conclusion, right? You came to the district after the book study had started. So I'm just curious, in this position, if you feel empowered by this focus, having arrived here in the middle of this.
Yes. Yes, I do feel empowered. I do think that it's exciting when not just the leaders, but also, when we think of leadership and empowering leaders, we think about oftentimes administrators. But our role is to empower not just each other as leaders, but the classroom teachers as leaders as well. And I think through this book study and being able to have that hyper focus on literacy and on authentic literacy and common instructional practices that are proven to be effective, having that hyper focus will allow us to stay focused on what matters most. There's a lot of distractions, we know, and it's important for us to empower our teachers and our leaders to stay aligned with our strategic plan, and this allows us to do that.
Cool, thank you.
I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I do. Yes, I think it's exciting. I listened to a lot of the conversations that you've had at the board meetings prior to being on board here. So I was able to listen to your comments and about the book study, and it was really exciting for me as a potential candidate for this position.
I had a comment, and it ties into what Anthony just said. As we read this book, they talked about getting teachers to buy in and why they perhaps need to tweak the way they deliver instruction. But Anthony's comment made me think, as we're revamping things perhaps in a daily basis of what the kids are used to, there has to be student buy-in as well, because I think that's what happened in Anthony's conversation. The student didn't understand how this written communication, how this discussion would help him become a better student and perhaps a better advocate for some of the subjects that he's studying, because you clarify things when you write. And that's perhaps what he didn't understand as a student in math. So I'm excited to see that not only are we going to be working on teacher buy-in, but the leaders who are the teachers in the classroom will take it down even a further step to say to the students, guess what? You guys are leaders in the classroom as well. And we're going to clarify things for you so that you can understand how this empowers you. So I'm so grateful that we're doing this, because it affects everyone at all levels. From, the superintendent to a 5-year-old kindergarten student who walks into a classroom and is asked to do some inventive spelling or writing or drawing or whatever. It's their form of communication, and it empowers them. So thank you to everyone who's working on this. It's going to be dynamic.
And will we be able to get updates every so often on what's
I would
happening?
love to speak and orally communicate, and even in writing, some
Okay.
updates. But yes, absolutely.
Because I'd like to kind of know how much they're starting to write and to read in every grade level and classes, and just an idea of where we're heading and how we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz.
Thank you.
We're ready for item 6 on our agenda, our summer graduate. It's recommended that the Board of Education grant a Cuyahoga Falls High School diploma to the following individual who has now completed requirements stated by the state of Ohio for high school graduation. We have a 2021 summer graduate, Mo I.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Congratulations. We're proud that you're able to finish up and are now an alumni. So thank you for your hard work. Roll call?
They're not here, but maybe we could give them a round of
Yeah,
applause.
let's do that. Ms. Stoikoi?
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Item E, Treasurer CFO's business by consent agenda. Christy Stoikoi.
I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the treasurer's consent agenda.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded.
Not a whole lot, just a number of minutes, and then one change to the permanent appropriations. There was an additional grant that was dropped in within the last couple weeks under 572, the Title I fund, the separate Title I grant from our regular Title I, but they do fall under the same fund. So that was the change there. And then we do have quite a few different donations to Richardson, Preston, the high school, district-wide of rugs and tennis balls and soccer balls and dry erase markers, all sorts of things. So always appreciative of that.
I want to give a special thank you to Councilwoman Penta, who made a donation to the elementary school over her board at Richardson. Talks about hub of the community to have our council people looking to see ways that they can support our school district. And it gives me an idea to start trying to shake down some of the other ones to donate to the buildings in their wards as well. So they can wait for that request from me.
Good.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Item F, regular business, Ms. Stoikoi.
I do not have a whole lot other than kind of touching on the whole hometown ticketing. So this Friday will be the first home game. So that information is all online, but there will not be any cash accepted at the gate. I myself and my trusty sidekick Joanne will be there with some iPads for people maybe who have not received the message or need help getting an account or downloading the app or need to use one of our items. So we will be there to help anyone, knowing that it's first time here. I know a lot of parents have probably had to do it other places, as most other places have gone to it, but for someone who perhaps only attends home events, it may be. So we will be there, and all the information is online. So if that's the place to get tickets, if you want them, it's actually really cool. You have them on your phone. You can text them to other people if you want. So in our COVID world, a no touch type thing, because it's just scanned. It's just a QR code. So I'm looking forward to that.
I have a question for you along that vein. I know that senior passes and things like that have been honored in the past. Those will still continue to be honored.
Yep.
And nothing needs to be updated with those, correct? Thank you so much.
My question is, if for instance, somebody has totally missed this, doesn't have a credit card, doesn't have it on it, will we make some accommodation for them to get out? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Not that we want to encourage that. I
No,
don't think our
no,
community
but
is
with
like
the
that
first with the
anyway,
first
but-
game, yeah, we understand. That's kind of why we're gonna, even if maybe you don't have your phone on you or so you don't have a phone, we'll have something that if you do have your credit card, then you can come over and we'll take care of you.
That speaks to culture of care. We're getting a lot of good stuff.
Thank you, Ms. Stoikoi. Item G, Superintendent CEO's business by consent agenda, Dr. Todd Nichols.
Thank you, President Schofield, members of the board. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the superintendent's business consent agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Moffett?
Aye.
Item H, Superintendent CEO's business.
Actually, if I may, I'd like to go through the impact group piece and then the athletics handbook piece, and then have my comments at the end of this
That's fine.
section. Is that Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, it is recommended that the Board of Education enter into a 6-month public relations consulting agreement with the Impact Group commencing September 2nd, 2021, per the attached agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Thank you again for joining us this evening.
I think we're just all excited.
Roll call, please.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Okay.
You're a black tiger once again.
And then I'd like to have a first reading of the athletic and extracurricular activities handbook. Have you perused the handbook? If there's anything that you see now, please let us know. If there, as you're looking through the handbook, please share any comments that you have with me so I can share them with KJ. There have been no changes to the handbook.
Okay. And then on to your comments, Dr. Nichols.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm going to speak to the topic that's the hottest, right? So the hot topic is these things, the mask, face coverings, right? That's the hot topic. And it's a controversial topic, and it consumes pretty much every day of my and my colleagues' lives right now. We are staying on top of the numbers every single day. Not only Summit County numbers, but also, our zip code numbers, and then what's happening in our buildings. And have been talking with one another in terms of what's happening in their situations. And then I have some other situations in my personal life that I'm very familiar with as well. So this topic never goes away, and it hasn't gone away for the last 18 months or so. It's just all consuming. That being said, we had our latest conversation with the superintendents and Tana Burford and Donna Skoda today, this afternoon. That's a standing meeting we do every week at 3:00. And we get updated information from the county at that point in time. Their data is updated. And our dashboard data is updated every night. Now I realize that today was a little bit of a snafu as we stepped into a new month, but it's already fixed. Thank you, Ryan. And so in Summit County, they're experiencing about 159 cases a day. And they put on one of their epidemiologists in the conversation with us today. And quite frankly, there's at this point no slowdown in sight. And that's concerning. I consider our zip codes and those around us. And I asked Donna and Tanya today, I says, when I look at the 7-day rolling average for 44221, for example, and it shows me 0.86 new cases a day. That's less than 1 new case a day. And she says, yeah, we really, the problem with that data is that it far underrepresents the actual incidents that are taking place. Because with home health, with the home test kits and so on and so forth, there are a number of cases that are just not even being reported. I mean, they're not coming through Summit County Public Health. And so it seems to be that particular set of data is not as reliable as I had hoped it was. I also found out that, and I haven't had the chance to go check, so I can't quote numbers here, and you know how much I love numbers. ODH's reported cases are different than what Summit County Public Health cases are. And so they're looking into that, in terms of the timing. They don't really know what that situation is. And ODH cases have been suggested to me to be higher than what we're representing in Suffolk County. And so today, or where we are since the beginning of school, is we've had 18 student cases in August. And as of last Friday, we only had 8 student cases. We came back to school on Monday. It was 15 student cases. Then it was 18 at the end of the day yesterday. And we've had 7 new cases today. We had 0 staff today. We had 17 staff cases in August. And where that becomes especially problematic, certainly without the masks, where that becomes especially problematic is the quarantine numbers. And so our school nurse, had 139 currently in quarantine before I came to this meeting, but she'd already sent me a note that said, I'm not done yet. And that final number I won't be able to have that updated for you until tomorrow, late tonight or tomorrow. So we have greater than 139 current quarantine situations. And if our goal is to keep students and staff in school and continuing to educate folks, we can't ignore that. We've seen in Akron Beacon Journal that, what happened in Nordonia. It's happened in other school districts as well. Wadsworth just went to a mask mandate for the next 3 weeks because their numbers out there are just ridiculous. They're off the charts. I feel for Dr. Andy Hall, a good friend of mine for a long time. And we're currently, what is being suggested is we're currently at January levels with about 150 to 175 cases a day. I also know that the concern is our ERs in the beds in the hospital. And so we're 94% capacity now, and they're ramping up some of their morgue crisis plans, which is horrible to think about. But those are the realities. That's where we are. I know there'll be people that challenge it and so on and so forth if we were to institute a mask mandate. But in the words of Donna Skoda today, I think a mask mandate is the right thing to do. And so I would suggest to the board that I am strongly considering, unless you tell me absolutely not, to institute a mask mandate beginning Tuesday after Labor Day for a 4-week period of time and reevaluate it. I need time to get stickers on the windows and the doors and so on and so forth. And all calls got to go out tomorrow, and just need a little bit of time.
Okay.
And I get what you're saying, and I respect that. I actually had a community member say that same idea as a plan today to me. So is there a way we could do an all call tonight that says, students, it's mandatory as of Tuesday, but know that it's coming, and we would really like to see you tomorrow and Friday wearing them?
Depending on what time we get out tonight, yes. I mean, depending on what time we get out tonight. I don't want to do an all call at 10 o'clock at night. I've done that before and it didn't go well.
Right. Well,
I typically do my all calls at 6:30.
A couple things. I saw the article in the Akron Beacon Journal today. I didn't realize that only 3 school districts out of the 17 in Summit County even have a dashboard that's available to the public. So I'm proud that we're one of them. And we update it nightly. We do the best we can. I know that. Is it perfect? Probably not, because not everyone reports, and we can only report what we know. But nonetheless, being one of those 3 districts out of 17 in the county that put that information out there, I'm proud of us for doing that. So I'll say that straight up. And then secondly, I certainly support the mask mandate you're suggesting.
And you know I do. I've been bugging you for a while now. And I, of course, clipped all my little articles to read under comments tonight,
You can
which
put
I
them
will
away,
not have
please.
to now, so
You
that's
can
good.
put them away, please.
Because, you know, I was ready, but yes, mandate. I think it's time. We need to protect our children, all of them, and our staff.
We strongly encouraged and strongly recommended, and, you know, we've seen in the buildings that it just isn't happening.
It's not. I know for my grandson, so sorry. But I just totally agree. We need to mandate.
Okay.
I just think my oldest nephew started kindergarten and my sister sent him to school on the first day with the mask on. By the end of the day, it was in his pocket because he was the only person in his classroom.
Yeah,
And in a
that's
6-year-old brain, it doesn't make sense of why am I doing this that nobody else is, because in his 6-year-old brain, he
Right.
wants to fit in.
Right.
So, I know my sister will be very happy. Personally, my own family will be happy. I am very happy.
Me too.
And the other piece I want to say is that I think we've seen today that, yes, there are people that are going to be unhappy and they're going to be vocal. And they're members of our community. And so we respect their opinions even if we disagree. Because
correct.
they're part of our Black Tiger family, whether we agree on this issue or disagree on that issue, period. And I think that's important for people to know. And that we should treat one another like the Black Tiger family that we are.
I hope so.
And I hope that that's the case. But I also think we've seen that there are a lot of people that believe that this is the right decision. We've seen
I
that
think
today
so.
as well. And we need those people to communicate with their students about why it's the right decision, to make sure that their students understand. Because, like the example of my nephew, if he can say something about why he's wearing a mask, it's going to help that kid who he's friends with, who sits next to him, understand why. Last year we told him the world was sick, so we have to keep ourselves safe from the world. And that worked for him. So just to our families who might be listening or who might be here, please have that conversation with your children so that they understand that they can be graceful to their classmates as well.
Yeah. And that's really, and for the people that are listening, people that are in the audience, that's really the vortex that I've been in, right? And in terms of making this decision is understanding and looking at science from all different aspects. And there's science on both sides of this issue. There is. And being able to read and understand all of that science, knowing what, feeling the empathy and fearing what's happening with our healthcare workers and all of those kinds of things, but then also having the responsibility to do what our community wants. And it didn't, up until just recently, it didn't really feel like our community overall wanted this to happen. But based on all of the information that I have right now, it is the right thing to do. It's the right time. And so that's what I'm suggesting. And
I wanted to give you
please have my back.
One more kudos because regardless of whether your response makes parents happy or not, you make an effort to respond to every person that sends you an email because we get those emails as well. And I know families in other districts where that's not the case. And it creates a rift in their community. So whether people are happy about what you say or not, it makes a difference that the superintendent puts the time in to respond to those people.
Thank
so
you.
I want to acknowledge that as well.
Thank you.
So, yeah, and I do too. And I think it is the best thing to do right now. Although I beg our community to get vaccinated, which would clear this up.
In terms of vaccinations, now that you bring that up, we're looking at 5 and up, maybe November, December. We had a few cases of those, there were a few cases about reactions and cardiology and so on and so forth that they're working through. But we're anticipating November, December. I know there's a strong movement to make it a Class B. See, Class A is where all the quarantining and all of that stuff comes into place. I know there's a big movement to move it to a Class B, which then would mean we don't have to quarantine and so on and so forth. But that remains to be seen, and that's gonna play itself out in politics.
And that's the virus, not the vaccine, right?
Yeah, that's the
I
virus.
wanna make sure
Yeah, that's the
I was
virus.
following along.
But the impact of masks on quarantining too.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
There's a change, right? In the, if we have a mask mandate, what it means for quarantining. Can you
Yes.
talk about that?
Yeah, and actually I have a document for all of you that we got from Ohio Department of Health today. Christy, there's one for you.
I'll keep that.
It talks about quarantining and so on and so forth. It also identifies revised codes, so it'll be maybe helpful.
I'd like to thank you. As you know, this is a personal issue for me because my family members are first responders, MDs, and funeral home. So they've all seen it, and we've had family discussions about the reality of COVID, and all of my family members have been impacted through their professions. So I'd like to thank you for taking the steps that they strongly recommend based on the information that they all receive through their medical journals, professional associations. So I know that not everyone will be happy about this, but I'm personally thanking people for masking, because not just my family, but there are thousands of families, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of families throughout the United States that have people in medical professions that are strongly impacted by this, and get to see the harsh reality sometimes when COVID goes south. So even if I don't like what my parents told me as a child, I had to respect it sometimes, and I'm not comparing it. I guess I am, but I'm not meaning to. But sometimes we don't always like the messaging. But if it's for the good of the community, we have to respect that. Or I'm hoping we will respect it. So thank you.
I know actually a lot of us have family that work in medical, so,
Yeah.
and my sister's as many people know, is a nurse practitioner, and so she deals with the families a lot more than the doctor that oversees her does. And to hear, she doesn't tell me anything private because I don't want anyone to think she's violating HIPAA, but just to hear her come home after a day where she had to talk to a family and tell them that your family member's not going to make it off the bed and you need to come say goodbye. And to see the impact that that's had to have on her more than a year out, continuing to have these conversations on a regular basis. Can't tell you how proud I am of my sister. But it's real, and it really is. It's hurting people. There are people I see in this room that I know have lost people to COVID, and it is real. And we might not want it to be, and I don't think anyone wants it to be, and nobody really wants to wear a mask, but it's real. It's a real disease. I had it, my family had it, and some people in my family are still dealing with things from it. So I just hope that we can be graceful with one another, even if we really disagree.
Yep. Maybe Tom can help me a little bit with crafting something. Yeah.
Me, like,
If I had a minute to talk to him, I could tell him something, but
I just like to, I feel like it was last year we were talking about, having to shut stuff down sometimes more because of quarantine than because of cases. And I think that's a really important point, because in this document that you just gave us from the Ohio Department of Health, it specifically says quarantine is not required if the direct contact has no symptoms and any of the three criteria are fully below or met. And one of them says the school requires masks. I mean, that's not all it says, but I mean, if we require masks, then if there are direct contacts, then we won't have as many quarantines, we won't run the risk, hopefully, of having to shut down the whole school because of quarantine. So,
yeah, it's a lower protocol, it's lower threshold, I should say.
to me, that's important, because I have two kids in Lincoln, first graders. So, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to educate my kids in front of a computer at my house again. So.
We've heard that. We have heard that loud and clear. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Nichols. Appreciate your comments this evening. We're ready for board business. Item number 1, MOU. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the memorandum of understanding between the Cuyahoga Falls Education Association and the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education regarding retirement eligibility and severance payment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Will this change our contract or does it stay? It's,
Yeah,
it's
more of a
within.
clarification.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one weird comment. In reading through it, so it was trying to say like he, she, but then in one area it just said he, and we could avoid a lot of that in the future if we just write our documents by saying they.
Yes.
So if I could just make that recommendation, but that's not substantial to what it is. So
Roll call, please.
Mr. Gomez?
aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Item 2, recognition of support organization. It's recommended the Board of Education formally recognize the following support organization for the 2021-2022 academic year. Lincoln Elementary School PTA.
So moved. Oh, I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We thank Lincoln for moving forward with being one of the organizations recognized by the Board of Education. And we continue to encourage all our support organizations and parent-teacher organizations, booster clubs, and so on to move through the process so we can formally recognize you as well. Roll call, please.
I have one comment. Marie Hosterman, who's the president of the Lincoln PTA, had indicated that she wanted to be here, but as many of us may know, she fell and broke her arm quite severely and is still recuperating from that. So we send our best wishes to Marie and her family as they help her recuperate. But she did really want to be here because she was proud of getting this accomplished.
As she should be. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Item 3, future agenda items. Ms. Stoica, I believe we have you on a future agenda for a presentation.
Next meeting.
Hearing no other items, we'll move to committee reports. First up, Alliance for School and Community Growth. Mrs. Moffett,
None to report now. The meeting will be coming up later this month.
thank you. Athletics and Activity Council, Dr. Hall,
Nothing to report right now.
thank you. Board Policy, Ms. White and Mr. Gomez.
None. I just wondered if we did pick a date,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that is
The
Septem-
20th
20th.
at noon?
So we're
At
meeting September
noon?
20th at noon.
Okay, thank
And
you.
the August PDQ, which is the Policy Development Quarterly, for Dr. Hall, who doesn't like acronyms, from OSBA, the Ohio School Board Association, came out. So we'll be reviewing that over the next week. I believe the other board members get that, so you know what's there. So if you have any comments about that, feel strongly about anything, please do let us know.
And I'm planning to put one of the packets in you and Ms. White's.
Thank you.
Policy Committee members, I do have a question for you. At various times, you've referenced a policy, I think, on homework or late work or something.
That's
I-
on the agenda.
I haven't seen it yet. In
It's-
hard copy or even a link to a
We
copy.
have gotten a link to it electronically, because that's how I
Mhm.
did first read it. It was in one of the
Mhm.
notes from Dr. Nichols, but I'm sure he could
Yeah.
get us that on Friday in hard copy as well.
Thank you. Business Advisory Council, Mrs. Moffett and Ms. White.
It is being rescheduled.
Okay. Financial Advisory Committee, Dr. Hall.
Yeah, we met on August 19th. We discussed the sale of bonds, the 6 to 12 building project updates, ESSER funding, the state biennium budget, and fair school funding. And most of it is stuff we discussed at length during these meetings, and some of it's probably outdated by now even too. But the gist of it, we talked about the 2.72 interest, the savings for taxpayers. We discussed Red Tree and those investments, and OFCC and their portion of the building project. We discussed the Newberry walkthrough, which now may be rescheduled, I think, and the schematic design and how that process is going. We discussed the 3 different rounds of ESSER funding, what those funds have been used for and could be used for. Again, the state biennium budget, but we're waiting on the funding formula, and that it alleviates the frustration with us having to transfer funds for open enrollments. And we talked a little bit about the levy. There's a levy committee meeting, I think on September 13th at 7 p.m.
5 p.m.
5
We're going to go 5 to 5:45
Oh, that's
so we
right.
can make it to the community engagement pieces.
Thank you. And just what those levies are, the November one and the May one. And our next meeting will be November 11th at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Any questions for him? Foundation Alumni Association, Mr. Gomez.
We will next meet on the 14th, which happens to be a welcome week night. So I will not be able to attend the foundation meeting because I'm going to be welcome weeking. So I will send in my regrets and ask for someone from the group to give me a little update so I can share out with all of you.
Thank you. Legislative Liaison, Mr. Gomez again.
The legislature itself remains out on summer recess, but the biggest thing for legislative liaison is in terms of the Ohio Department of Education. We've seen that Superintendent DeMaria is retiring, and then they appointed the deputy superintendent, Mr. Richard, to fill in the interim. Now, Mr. Richard took another job, so they have appointed yet a third person to fill in. I'm not sure if any of you follow what the Ohio Board of Education's been up to, but they're struggling to get along, which is leading to the leadership situation that they find themselves in. So I've taken upon myself to start watching their meetings. They meet once a month on a Monday and a Tuesday, just to further apprise myself of what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Student achievement, just a couple of quick updates. ODE has a new English language arts consultant named Dr. Teresa Castellaneta. She'll be hosting a virtual forum to introduce herself statewide on Thursday, September 23rd at 3:45 for elementary teachers and Thursday, September 30th for middle and high school teachers. And the link for her virtual open forum is on the ODE website. And I previously mentioned that Success Shorts are a new OSBA student success initiative that'll feature stories from local school districts that they plan to publish each month. OSBA's Northeast region, which is our region, is assigned the months of November and December. So one story I plan to submit is about our YMCA school district collaboration for our elementary after-school care programs in each of our buildings. It's important, I believe, because it was this collaboration and a series of summer meetings co-chaired by Cameron Lazar and Ryan Reevy from the Y that led to the establishment of our Welcome Weekdays. And from that has really exploded and blossomed into something else. So it just planted a seed, I think, for some fabulous community and family engagement. And while I'm on the subject, September 13th will be Lincoln and Richardson at 5:30, September 14th, Silver Lake and Elizabeth Price, and September 16th at DeWitt and Preston. Now we are ready for comments, and tonight we'll begin with Dr. Alex Hall.
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot to say. I just want to thank Ryan and your team for being vigilant with issues that come through. We've seen some of that stuff happen, and I appreciate your work there. Also, I drove by Shanae, and I saw that they poured the concrete for the sidewalks, and it looks great. So thanks to your team for that. And then just once again, please get vaccinated and wear your masks.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Next up, Mrs. Kathy Moffett.
My comments will be brief. I'd like to thank Mr. Heck for our tour this evening of our new communication center. It's awesome. It's awesome. And continue to support our sports teams, our marching bands, all of those folks who are working so hard in this heat to be the athletes they can be and the instrumentalists that they can be. The band show was more than impressive in spite of the threatening thunderstorm. And hopefully we can all continue to support the kids and the staff who are working so hard to launch a brand new school year that will hopefully keep us in the buildings for quite some time.
Thank you, Mrs. Moffett. I'm up next. I'd like to thank Mr. Steve McIntosh and also Mr. Steve Newland for inviting us to the next garden party that's coming up on September 21st from 6 to 7:30. The Intro to Urban Agriculture students will be hosting this. He had one in 2019 that was well attended and outstanding. So I encourage the community to come to the gardens by the football stadium that evening and just see the kind of work that those students are doing. I'd also like to thank the Lincoln PTA for organizing a fun-filled family night last Friday evening. Popcorn, snow cones, games, a DJ, tattoos, a bounce house. I mean, whatever you wanted, it was there. Well attended, fun night out. Kids had fun. It was great seeing everybody back out into the community again for a school event. And then finally, I'd like to thank the Silver Lake Home and School League president, Ms. Kendall Hudson, put together a really nice Silver Lake newsletter for families that we received a copy of, announcing a few things like their mom sale and so on. But what a great way to engage the families of Silver Lake with their Home and School League. So lots of good things going on, not just with our teachers and our classes, but also with our parent support organizations, who we remain extremely grateful to for all they do. Ms. White?
I really don't have anything to add, except I'd like to thank the teachers again for the grants and winning, and mask up and get vaccinated so we can get out of this mess, please.
Thanks, Ms. White. And Mr. Gomez.
I want to start by, Ms. Schofield didn't want to toot her own horn, but that YMCA collaboration, she's a member of that committee and has also been a driving force in that as well. So we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that.
Thank you.
I was also at the Lincoln event and it was just phenomenal. With the pandemic, they made sure everything was outside. It used to be outside, inside event. They made it all outside. Families felt very safe. They were, had people there. They did this like cute inflatable horse game, and then they wiped them down in between. I mean, they really took the time to be thoughtful about it because it mattered to them to be able to have this gathering of their community, to get to be together and to be that Lincoln family again. And it really mattered to them, and you could see that it made an impact on our families. So I can't thank them enough for that. Our first home game, as Ms. Stoikoi said, is this Friday, and I can't tell you how excited I am. The weather looks to be great. Get to see our cheerleaders cheer, our band perform, and our Black Tiger football team play. And I am very much looking forward to it after a year of not being able to go out to those games. Mr. Hutch is getting a lot of praise tonight, but I had it on here, so I'm going to thank him as well because his department's really been cranking it out. Whether it's issues with emails that we found and they worked very hard to get it going, whether it's Chromebook distribution or he's the driving force in our website committee as well. There's a lot of really good work coming out of there. And as a board, we like to tease Mr. Hutch. So it's important to thank him when we recognize the good things as well. And lastly, I'm very excited for our book study, which we have our first meeting of next week. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Item J, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, it is hereby moved that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering the employment of a public employee.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye. Where are you guys going? Anthony, where are you gonna go?
Conference room in the high school, the office there.
Let me make sure it's open.
Thank you.